Welcome back to Just Keep Parenting, everybody. It's a good day wherever you are. It's kind of like it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? We can make it a good day. I was down in Arizona last week, and this is what I came home with. And somebody had gotten it for me. This is one of my favorite sayings: is just make it a good day. This is what my mom used to say. Instead of have a great day, she would always say make it a good day. So we're making a good day wherever we are today. So we're still talking easy to love, difficult to discipline, right? And last week we talked from Arizona. We talked about being able to understand why children say no, right? We talked about it in class again today, and we talked about why do we oppose? Why do we resist, right? It's a part of our development as children and as adults. And so as we think about that, remember we're talking about positive intent versus negative intent. And so today's discussion comes from page 149, where it talks about as we assign blame, then it fuels the fire, and the fact that intent is real. It's a powerful communicator, right? So I want to visit with you for just a few minutes about like what that looks like, what that sounds like, right? And so when we assume that there's negative motives to another person, we start to attack and defend, right? It's a cycle that we get in: attack and defend, attack and defend. If we're being attacked, we want to defend ourselves, right? And so this typically escalates until one person becomes aware of the actions or frankly just surrenders, right? And so there's never really any good ending to that. And so as we submit our will, right, that's what we're doing. We're submitting our will to this person. Our willpower is diminished, right? So as we're looking at it from a parent or a teacher-child relationship, right, then if we get into that attack mode, right, thinking about the cupcake from a couple of weeks ago, if we establish that negative intent, then somebody wins essentially, right? And the loser then that willpower is diminished, right? And so thinking about that willpower, that's the same willpower, right, that we might need later to resist a dangerous peer pressure, right? It's that same willpower that we might need later as we say yes to healthy risks, like eating healthier or exercising, right? But we fail to do so because that willpower is not there. So as we look at this willpower, it's pretty powerful in our life. It can help us overcome obstacles. It can help us move forward to accomplishing our dreams, right? But if we find ourselves not being able to resist chocolate or keeping commitments to others, to ourselves, right? We still may be attached to that negative intent, right? That negative motive. And so we may see ourselves as incapable, right? Unequal to life's tasks. And this is one of those things that children can't talk about, but may be happening inside of them as we have these battles with them, right? So this diminishes, right? This dim self-image, right? It drains our willpower. And so then it's why even start? Why even talk? Why even move forward, right? Because we know that somebody is going to take away our willpower, right? And we want our kids to have that willpower. We want them to be able to have that willpower when they're in a peer pressure situation or when they're looking at healthy choices, right? And so do we just give up, right? When we have kids that are out of bounds, right? When they're doing things that are out of bounds? Obviously the answer is no, right? So what do we use? What do we use instead, right? And Dr. Bailey talks a lot about a more constructive approach, right? So that those feelings of worth and strength can stay intact, right? While we're shifting course. So in order for us to use that, we have to be aware of our intent, right, when we address our children. We've kind of talked about this before, but the power of love, right? There's a video on the power of love, but the power of love teaches us that it's, or reminds us, not teaches, but it reminds us that it's this love, right, that reminds us to see the best in each other, right? That's pretty positive intent, right? That's kind of amazing that we can do that, but sometimes we don't do that, right? It's that negative intent that we see in each other. And so I love the next piece where she talks about even more that then it reminds us, right, to see the best in each other. It also states that what we see in each other, we strengthen in ourselves. So as we think about our children that are in the classrooms, that are in our homes, right, we want them to be the best, right? We want them to do good things. We want them, but if they're continually being battled upon, right, when they step out of bounds, right, the question then comes, well, what are we teaching them? How are we teaching them, right? And so we know in science, right, that we don't have to be conscious in order for something to affect us, right? Much research has gone into that, right? And we know that feeling when we get it in our gut. Like, it's just like, oh, something feels off. Something feels weird. Something might feel awful, right? And so I love this quote from the book. It says, researchers tell us that we can unconsciously process close to 1 trillion bits of information per second. I can't even comprehend that. 1 trillion bits of information per second. And you think about it, like when you're driving, right? All the things that you're doing when you're driving. You're noticing the colors, you're noticing the cars, you're noticing the sky, you're noticing the lights. I mean, there's so much going on in that 1 second. But we can only consciously process 50 bits per second, right? So when we go back to that intent, right, that positive or that negative intent, sure, we can feel, right, that gut, we can feel their intent as we think about what are they thinking, right? Because we're processing 1 trillion per second, but consciously we can only process 50 bits. That's just kind of an amazing number to me, let alone thinking about, okay, so how do I process all that? So as we think about the intent, they're getting it, they're understanding it, right? They're feeling it, maybe not understanding it, but they're feeling it. And we've all talked about self-fulfilling prophecies before, right? That labels we give kids or others can eventually become the labels of themselves, right? And so most parents don't come right out and call their kids lazy or stupid or disrespectful, right? But sometimes we imply that with our words and the tone that we use, right? We didn't necessarily call them lazy, but we said, gosh, what time are you getting up? It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Wish I could sleep all day. So you didn't say they were lazy, but there's that implication, right? There's that feeling, that gut thing of, okay, can we have a conversation about this, right? And that's what we're going to talk about next week, is how to have those conversations with those people, with those children that are out of bounds, right? So as we look a little bit more into those conversations, right? We have a conversation with someone and we think it went well, and yet there's that feeling of, you go home and you're thinking, okay, let me replay that in my brain, especially women, right? Let me think about that again. Oh, I don't know. Oh gosh, and we replay it, right? Because we came away with that feeling that something was amiss, right? Was it dishonesty? Was it disapproval? We don't know, right? In class today, we talked about that overlay, right? Adults are really good at that. We're really good at overlaying rather than just kind of saying how it is. And kids, hello, Miss Dora, you have a big butt, right? You're right. I do have a big butt, dude. I'm an adult. You're a kid, right? They don't overlay things, right? They say it how it is. But adults, we tend to overlay it. So we talked in class today about learning how to speak children, right? We speak adultese, but we've got to figure out how to speak childrenese as we talk to them so that they're not confused by what we're saying, right? They don't get the overlay yet. I wish none of us used overlay, but we do, right? And so their intentions, right, as we're thinking about going back to the our friend conversation and trying to figure out something was amiss, right? Their intentions are reaching us on an unconscious level, right? We're processing that trillion bits. So we can use words with the intent of being open, or we can use words with the intent of being manipulative, right? As I was preparing this, one of the things that kept coming to my brain was, talking to a child who doesn't really understand words yet, to be able to say, okay, kid, if you don't start crying now, I'm gonna, and we have this smile on our face, but the intent is, you're driving me crazy, kid, because you're not stopping. You're just continuing to cry, right? So the intent is there, right? But the words are pretty positive. So when we do this to children, right, is the intent to punish or is the intent to teach? And that's what we have to figure out. So that's our goal this week as we talk to children, really as we talk to anybody, but as we talk to the other people in our life, right, is our goal to teach or is our goal to punish? So our intent becomes more powerful than the words that we use. So think about that this week as we're talking to children in our homes, in our classrooms, as we're talking to adults, right? Maybe we don't need to use overlay as much as we think we do, right? Because life would be a lot easier if we could just understand each other on the same level without using that, as I call it, beating around the bush, right? That emotional overlay that we do. So that's our goal this week, right? To kind of look at ourselves and think, am I using words to teach or am I using words to punish? That will help us figure out, are we using positive intent or are we using negative intent as we converse with these kids? Good luck, everybody. Carry on. Share it with somebody that that may be struggling with parenting or teaching or relationships in general. I was at a funeral this last week, and my cousin came up and he said, Dory, I love your videos. They even work on my dog. I started laughing. Well, it works too. Anyway, we got to laughing about that and just talked about the fact that sometimes we don't understand that childrenese, that children speak that we do. Or the adultese, and we forget that we need to talk in childrenese to the kids. So make it a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.